then we'll fuck you up. I can tell you one time, go grab your guns. I'll tell you one time, this ain't philosophy. Why?
Holy shit. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the War Room. Trust me, I am just as surprised of doing this bullshit as you are here to see it. It is day 485 of World War III. And I had no plans of doing this until this morning. What ended up happening was I have gotten dragged out of retirement, basically. I have been gone since day 415, as some of you have known. I did not post an update for this on Facebook, because guess what? I don't do Facebook anymore. I have walked away from Facebook since April because I'm sick of the bullshit. I have let's recap, okay? We have not been able to touch base in more than 2 months. So let me get you caught up. Pwnery has been busy, very busy. And Pwnery is very angry. Very angry. I am part of the Constitutional Convention of the States. I'm sick of what's going on, so I decided to become part of the solution instead of just reporting the problems. I am now in potentia to do something about it because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of a lot of things. I'm sick of being sick. I have been at countless physicians and doctors. I have been poked and prodded. I've had blood work. I've had x-rays. I've had ultrasounds. And I'm trying to find out how long I've got left to be around. Because there's something growing inside of my chest that I can't get rid of. And frankly, I don't want to anymore. I'm tired of everything. But that's beside the point. Because everyone keeps telling me what it isn't, and nobody can tell me what it is. Which is just like how our fucked up country is, and just like how this fucked up war is. You notice I'm not pulling my punches tonight, because I don't fucking care anymore. This is World War III, whether you want to accept it or not. Because we have a do-nothing country in the middle of fucking nowhere, being screwed with by an asshole, and the whole world has decided to either turn a blind eye or take sides, and we are fighting a proxy war with a dictator. That's the long and short of it. But thankfully today, we were gifted with a man that I thought was public enemy number one. And that is his photo right there on your screen. His name is Yevgeny Prigozhin. And if you don't know who he is a neo-Nazi piece of shit. Or was, until he got tired of being used by Russian President Vladimir Putin. He is sick and tired of being a hired lapdog. So, let's recap who this piece of shit is or was or continues to be. He is the head of the Wagner Group. Yes, Wagner, German name. Yes, neo-Nazi, German name, composer. He is the head of a neo-Nazi paramilitary group, or at least a group that has its roots rooted in neo-Nazism. And he's a hired gun, and he was under the employ of one Russian president, Vladimir Putin. So, what do we have here? A lapdog paid to go into somebody else's country, stir up some shit at the behest of his employer, and got results better than his employer's national military. And what ended up happening is almost an Aesop's fable, isn't it? He got results, he needed supply, he requested supply, and his boss said, "Sorry, bro, can't help you. Gotta take care of my own military first." And he said, "Wait a minute. You paid me to do a job. I'm doing this job better than your military. Now I need bullets, beans, and antibiotics for my men that you paid me to put out here. That gets you results. And now you're saying you can't give it to me?" And Putin's like, "Yes, deal with it. Beg, borrow, steal, rape, pillage, do whatever you gotta do. Stay in the fight. Give me updates. See you later, bro." The K-Thing spy. That is what he has done to Prigozhin. This is what Russian President Vladimir Putin has done to his hired lapdog for months. And the hired lapdog is getting sick and tired of the bullshit. So what does he do? He starts vocalizing his discomfort with the situation. And how does the Russian leadership respond? They bomb him. Yes, news out of today. Sergei Shoigu, defense minister, Russian military, bombed Prigozhin's headquarters in the Luhansk and Donetsk regions of Ukraine, where he was hired to do a job and can't do it because he doesn't have enough bullets, beans, and antibiotics. Because let's be honest, money means nothing in a world war. And I always jokingly say the 3 B's: beans, bullets, and antibiotics are the things he needs. And he's not getting them by the guy who hired him. Kind of shitty, isn't it? So he's a little upset. He's a little pissed off. A lot like me since April. I've been pissed off for 2 months. Which is why I haven't been able to do the show. Because I've been trying to slay my own personal demons. Some of you who are part of my Discord know what those are. Some of you don't. Some of you, I don't care for you to find out. Because I don't know if you understand that that's what I'm going through. And that's okay. Because not everybody can handle that. Let me say good evening to the bearded guy, Tony York, and the exiting New York Outcast, because apparently he's got to go. Let me introduce you to my panel, who may or may not all be here. I know Scott is here, so I will bring him on board. Welcome, Scott, P79. Hello.
Yo.
I will leave the other people in the green room until they PM me that they're here, because I am fully aware that my other panelist is currently on the road and he may or may not be available. So let me just fire off a PM to him right quick, and just be like, let me know when you're home. There. Okay, now we're good. Right? Yeah. Cool. So, today is day 485. Today, the stats and statistics on the bottom of the screen are up to date with the current statistics. You will notice that since the last episode, the casualty figures have skyrocketed. These are estimates for troops and planes and whatnot, but they're close to accurate because you throw out the highs from the defender, you throw out the lows from the attacker, and somewhere in the middle is probably the truth, and that's where these numbers come from. They are collated from the Kyiv Independent, who is a independent news agency who takes the information from the Russians, the Ukrainians, the UK Defense Ministry, and whoever else has boots on the ground, and they sort of take an average of what's going on. So we'll go with that for now. I have only 3 stories for you tonight because this was an impromptu video. And I didn't want to waste your time because it's Friday night and we've all got shit to do. But the news of the day was pretty shocking because it came fast and often, and I thought it was quite important. Because what you're noticing today, or what you're about to hear today, is the opening salvo of what could very well be the end of Vladimir Putin's reign as communist dictator of the Russian Federation. All thanks to that man right there. Yevgeny Prigozhin, a paramilitary, quote, neo-Nazi hired gun, who I think has seen enough, because this guy had a come to Jesus moment. I'm not getting what I need from the guy who hired me, and I'm starting to believe that the guy who hired me doesn't give a shit about me, my men, my country, my flag, my military group, or his own ideology. So he is basically calling for the end of the regime. And that's why we're here tonight, because we're going to talk about what he said and what we think may happen. So the end of the show will be a what if, because there is no right answer and there is no wrong answer. Both of us are all just like, it could be this, it could be something else. We don't know. Guess we'll find out. So, let's go ahead and get started because I got things to do and you guys got things to do, and it's Friday night, so y'all got things to do. First, it's all pictures of Prigozhin, I'm sure. So here's the first one. Story begins with the leader of the notorious Russian mercenary group Wagner said Wednesday, so 2 days ago, that Russian President Vladimir Putin has been misleading his people when it comes to Ukraine's war progress. Kyiv has begun what is expected to be a substantial counteroffensive as it looks to oust Russian forces from the southern and eastern parts of Ukraine, as it has already seen some success in repelling Russian troops from at least 8 settlements. Putin has attempted to counter any aggression that Ukraine is making headway in its offensive and claimed its efforts were failing. On Wednesday, Putin claimed that Ukraine has taken heavy losses in its latest push and that already there was a lull on Kyiv's counteroffensive. However, Yevgeny Prigozhin, the guy on the right, once a top Putin ally, took issue with Kremlin chief's comments and said that he and the Ministry of Defense are misleading the Russian people. Huge chunks of land have been handed over to the enemy, he added in an audio message posted to his Telegram, according to a translation by the Moscow Times. Prigozhin did not go into detail as to where his troops had given up territory to Ukrainian forces, though Ukraine earlier said this week that it had made progress in the vital Zaporizhia region, a claim that was substantiated by the Russian official in the area. The enemy's wave-like offenses yielded results despite enormous losses, Vladimir Rogov said in a Telegram post on Sunday. Kyiv's Deputy Defense Minister Hanna Maliar, acknowledged that while Ukrainian forces were making progress in the south, the situation remained more complicated. to the east. Wagner forces alongside Russian military troops have been unable to secure areas in Donetsk like Bakhmut, despite months of immense efforts and brutal warfare. Prigozhin said Ukraine's ability to not only hold its positions in the east, but advance across the Dnieper River and gain territory in Zaporizhia was being concealed from the Russian public. All of this is being totally hidden from everyone, he says. One day, Russia will wake up to discover that Crimea, too, has been handed back over to the Ukraine. Ukrainian President Zelensky has said that he will not stop resisting Russia until all of Ukraine is free from Russian occupation, including Crimea, which Russia has occupied since 2014. Western defense analysts have said that if Ukraine wants to secure its southern regions, including Crimea, and begin pinching Russian troops by pushing up from the south, that it first must recapture the Zaporizhia region. This is where the Europe's largest nuclear power station is. We have talked about this for over a year. There are 6 reactors, all lined up like dominoes. They've constantly been under barrage, attack, occupation, you name it, this poor place has had it happen to it. This region's nuclear power plant is cold. Now, they have shut down the reactors, and they have given up generating power here because they can't tell you how safe it is and how long they can keep it. So they shut it down. They were like, you know what? Fuck it. We're done with this. If we shut it down, then they can't turn it into a giant dirty bomb. That's where we're at with that. But it is also the linchpin for the entire region, as Zaporizhia is the first major route from... Ooh, I forgot the name of that bridge. Do you remember, Scott?
Oh, the one that runs from Crimea to Russia?
Yes.
I forget its name offhand, but it seems like the Ukrainians are finally starting to target that in earnest.
Yes. That bridge is Russia's ingress into the region. And Zaporizhia is like the first major stop into that area. So they shut down the one thing that they would want there. Because why turn it into the next Chernobyl times 6? Clearly. So, anyway, that's been taken out. It is no longer a military asset one way or another. And then I'm sure as some of you who kept up with the stories realize the Russians attacked the hydroelectric power plant in the region also. Because they don't have a nuclear power plant to attack anymore. And they thought if they knocked that out, they would flood the area and force the Ukrainians to run away. That didn't work out either, did it?
No, but it certainly slowed them down, didn't it?
It did, because I think once they realized that they cut off their nose to spite their own face, that, great, now we flooded the region, now we can't cross it either, idiots.
Well, also that reservoir was the main freshwater supply for Crimea.
Which sort of sucks, because who occupies Crimea right now?
Yeah.
So they cut the water supply off for their own people. Way to go, Russia. Yay.
Well, apparently Russian civilians are fleeing from Crimea.
Yep. They're all done. This looks like the beginning of the end. And then one of two things is going to happen here. Let's go back to the movie Broken Arrow. Let's go back to John Travolta. There are one of two choices here. Concede defeat, save your reputation, quietly disappear off in the shadows. Or, fuck them if they can't take a joke. Set off a nuclear weapon. What do you think Putin's capable of doing right now? Keeping in mind that he had shelled the largest nuclear power station in all of Europe, in that region, until he failed to take it. uh, released the scariest nuclear submarine in modern times, the Belgorod, that nobody still can't find. I dragged him in here. He's not back yet, but he's going to be here soon. What does that say to the state of the mind of a man that's in his 70s who is still jerking off to a Cold War map of the 1960s? It's very possible that this can go very sideways. Anyway, let's move on to the next story, because I told you I'm not going to waste all your time tonight. We're going to do this quick and dirty. And I think we're already 22 minutes in, so let's try to get you out of here within an hour. Second picture, same guy. Russian military officials have denied attacking the mercenary Wagner group, as the force's founders and leader promises revenge and threatens to, quote, resolve the conflict. Now remember, all these stories are today. In a series of audio clips on Russian social media site VKontakte, VK. I'm sure I didn't pronounce that right. I didn't have a chance to practice that. Wagner's chief Yevgeny Prigozhin first accused Russia's defense ministry of authorizing an attack against his forces and made several promises of retaliation. Prigozhin claimed his camp came under fire from a massive missile attack, Kyiv Post reported. He also posted a video that he claimed showed the aftermath of the attack, while he said killed a huge amount of his troops at multiple camps. He promised that he would punish, quote, everyone involved in the alleged strikes against his forces. The defense ministry responded to the claims in a Telegram post saying, all the messages and video footage distributed on social networks on behalf of Prigozhin about the alleged strike by the RF Ministry of Defense on rear camps of PMC Wagner's are untrue and are informational provocation. The ministry added that its forces continue to carry out combat missions on the line of contact with the armed forces of Ukraine in the zone of the special operation. Russian presidential spokesperson Dmitry Peskov reportedly said Russian President Putin was aware of the ongoing situation involving Wagner Group and, quote, necessary measures are being taken. Rebecca Koffler, familiar name, Russian-born former DIA intelligence officer, was quoted as saying that it appears that Prigozhin has crossed the line in his fight with the Russian security bureaucracy. The FSB, Russian Domestic Security Services, has opened a criminal investigation into Prigozhin, following his calling for a military rebellion, according to the National Counterterrorism Committee. This has to be a major headache for Putin now, Koffler concluded. Russia's TASS news agency reported that the FSB Public Relations Office called on Wagner troops to disregard Prigozhin's orders and to detain him. Prigozhin, seen as a top Putin ally this week, took issue with the Kremlin chief's comments about progress in Ukraine and said he and the Ministry of Defense are misleading the Russian people. Huge chunks of land have been handed over to the enemy, he added in an audio message posted to his Telegram, according to a translation by the Moscow Times. Prigozhin did not go into detail as to where his troops had given up territory to Ukrainian forces, though Ukraine earlier said this week that it had made vital progress in the Zaporizhzhia region, a claim that was substantiated by a Russian official in the area. So, basically, yeah, they lost some space, and yeah, we're confirming that they lost some space. Not a good look if you're Russia. Especially when you're on the defensive from a Ukrainian counteroffensive that came 2 months late. If the Ukrainian counteroffensive came 2 months late, where the hell was your defensive position? You didn't have one, did you? Okay. Moving on. Third story. Look how quick we're getting through this. Same guy. This is the last story of the day within these updates. These updates were coming fast and heavy, by the way. I have a third source that I talk to throughout the day on the Discord server. He's not here right now because he's 2 hours behind me and he's probably still working. Anyway, a Russian government agency is opening a criminal investigation into Wagner Group chief Yevgeny Prigozhin, shocker, after he called for an armed rebellion on today, which was aimed at removing the country's defense minister, Sergei Shoigu, who ordered the airstrikes against his people in Ukraine, even though he's under the employ of Shoigu's boss, Vladimir Putin. Go figure. In a series of video and audio recordings, Prigozhin angrily accused Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu of ordering a rocket strike on the private military contractors' field camps where the group is fighting on behalf of Russia in Ukraine. This is not a military coup, but a march of justice, Prigozhin declared. The evil embodied by the country's military leadership must be stopped. The scum will be stopped, he says, referring to Shoigu. Russia's defense ministry denied executing the attack. According to the state news agency TASS, the National Anti-Terrorism Committee, part of the federal security systems, will be opening a criminal investigation on charges of calling for an armed rebellion. The report states that Russian President Vladimir Putin has been kept informed of the situation. The allegations circulated on behalf of Yevgeny Prigozhin are baseless. In connection with these statements, the FSB of Russia has initiated a criminal case into the call for an armed rebellion. We demand an end to illegal actions, the National Anti-Terrorism Committee said in a statement, according to Russian state television channel 1. Moscow appears to be taking the threat very seriously, as the National Guard and riot police were sent to provide security to key facilities across Moscow, which includes transport infrastructure and government agencies. Rebecca Koffler, Russian-born DIA intelligence officer, says that the Wagner Group chief has gone too far in a fight with the FSB. You would think that she is glad this is happening. It appears that Prigozhin has crossed the line in his fight with the Russian security bureaucracy. The FSB, Russian Domestic Security Service, has opened a criminal investigation into Prigozhin following his calling for a military rebellion, according to the National Counterterrorism Committee, she says. This has to be a major headache for Putin right now. While the situation is fluid, it is clear that the Russian government fears social unrest, in light of the Wagner Group commander Prigozhin's accusing Putin's regime of lying about the war in Ukraine, Koffler says. She added that a civil conflict developing in Russia is not in anyone's interest. I disagree, but we'll get to that later. Zelensky's government is likely to want to take advantage of the situation and fuel an unrest in Russia. Many U.S. leaders foolishly have called for Putin's ouster, something that would likely cause a major civil unrest, Koffler says. The Pentagon ought to be watching this potential crisis very carefully. President Biden, who was just a few days ago restated that the threat of Russia unleashing a nuclear Armageddon is real. Sidebar, this is the same idiot who went on an anti-gun tirade and ended his stupid speech with God Save the Queen, who has been dead for months. Just a thought. Anyway, he must think carefully how to react to this one. He suggested a strategic defeat of Russia, and that would be a good thing. He should really think of the consequences of such a scenario, i.e. a power vacuum. National Security Council spokesman Adam Hodge said, "We are monitoring the situation and will be consulting with allies and partners on these developments." Wah, 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 word fucking salad. If I'm not mistaken. Anyway, those are my 3 stories, because this is still unfolding right now as we speak, which is now day 486 if you're on that side of the world. So the question becomes, what if? I have 3 panelists. Only one is here. The other two muted. Maybe not
I'm
be
here.
here. Oh, you're here. Good.
I'm sorry, I went to the movies and I forgot to turn Discord
Shut the
off.
fuck up. We have 3 panelists. 2 are here. Here's the
Love you
deal.
too.
We have a hired gun who is not getting the 3 Bs. He's pissed off, and now he realizes that his boss is a dick. Now he's calling for the ouster of that boss. Because he realizes that that boss doesn't give a shit about his country, or his people, or the future of either one of those things. Because he jerks off to a Cold War map of 1963. I think we all agree on that. Guy's a dick. Once upon a time...
I'd say 1980, but, you know, sure.
63. Because that's when he was part of East Germany's Stasi. Anyway. I think we all agree the man's got to go. He's a Cold War relic, and the only thing that keeps him in power is the stigma of the boogeyman with his finger on the button. But let me try to put your mind at ease. This war has been going on for 16 months. And what has he proven in 16 months? He has his finger on the war button of broken, useless, derelict, bullshit surplus equipment. Because he's out of tanks, and he's out of planes, and he's running out of bullets, and he's running out of friends. He had to hire a military because his is inferior and pathetic. Look at the numbers scrolling across the bottom of your screen. That's all you need to know. This guy is putting out T-62A and T-54 main battle tanks from the Cold War. Because he's run out of T-72s and T-92s, or T-90s. He's running out of loyal soldiers. He's drafting and conscripting people who don't want to be there, who would rather defect or run away at the threat of being executed for treason. And this has been going on since February of this year, 4 months.
He's also welding naval guns to tanks.
He's welding naval guns to tanks.
Yeah, when you start seeing improvised weapons like that.
He's welding naval guns to BMPs because he doesn't have tanks.
Exactly.
What does he have left? He has 12 or 13 T-14 Armada main battle tanks that are not even uniformly built. Each one was a test bed for different systems. None of them work fully. He's got a couple of T-90s, maybe a couple of T-72s, and a small plethora of Cold War tanks where a single Javelin will destroy 4 in a column. Because they're just that close together. That's how shitty they are. He has a military who doesn't want to fight. He has a paramilitary who he has stabbed in the back. They're not getting paid, and now they're not getting armed. And they're not getting support. And now, that's his biggest problem. Because now that they want to ouster everyone in charge. I don't believe that Sergei Shoigu... Sorry, let me take that back. I don't believe Yevgeny Prigozhin has aspirations to run the Russian Federation. I don't think he is that entity. He is not a leader of government. He's a leader of military. That's why he is the head of Wagner. So let's talk about the what ifs.
No, he's looking at ways to save his own ass.
Well, no, I don't think so. I think he wants to ouster who's in charge. Really.
I heard this from a Russian YouTuber, but did you know they're now drafting people via text message in Russia?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And that if you don't show up to that text message, the military will go hunt you down.
Yeah, they're like the AFT. I get it.
Well,
All
in
right,
this
so
case,
let's get into the what
they
if.
won't just shoot your dog; they'll shoot your neighbor's dog too in Russia.
Whatever. Let's get into the what if. I'm going to put out a theory, and it's going to be the most outlandish one, okay? Because I talked to Jaime about this. We butted heads about this earlier. I am deliberately picking the most outlandish what if. Because if it happens, I could just sit back and go, I told you. But if I'm wrong, I'm like, okay, well, I wasn't serious about how outlandish it was. But it has to be said, because you always have to plan for contingencies, right? It's a
we get it.
war.
Very outlandish. Continue.
Well, it's a war.
Right.
Not everything goes as planned. So I'm going to give
It's also a outlandish contingency. So go
Well,
on.
he's back. So I'm going to give you the weirdest one. I don't 100% believe in it. Just let's get this out of the way, okay? I don't believe in it. But I think that if it were to happen, I could say, well, I considered it. I just didn't think it was going to happen. Possible, but improbable. Let's just say it that way, okay? And I'm going to give my 3 panelists an opportunity to come up with what they think is going to happen. And I'm not going to argue the merits of what they think and what I think. We're not going to do that. I'm just saying this is what I think, and then you can tell me what you think about what's going to happen, and then we'll just say, great, cool, thanks for coming, good night. Cool? We're not going to pick on each other's ideas, because mine's completely fictional. Okay, I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm going to say it anyway, because somebody has to pick the crazy one. I'll be the crazy one. I'll start with the crazy. Evgeny Prigozhin, head of Wagner, hired gun, sick of the bullshit, having to butt heads with Rezvan Kadyrov, Chechen warlord, also hired gun, part of 1/3 of the Chechen movement, because Chechnya is split in 3 ways. Pro-Chechnya, where they follow Rezvan Kadyrov and fight for Russia. 1/3 of the people who fight for the Ukraine and say Kadyrov's crazy, will fight for Ukraine. And 1/3 of Chechnya where they're like, just leave us the fuck alone. Don't break our China plates, okay? We're poor. We only got this. Go die somewhere else. Leave me alone. So it's split 3 ways, that country. The sentiment is. They're having to face Prigozhin and the Russian Federation military and the Ukrainian military. So it's like 1 on 4 or 1 on 3, whatever.
Right.
Okay? Here's my theory. Prigozhin's not getting the 3 Bs. Beans, bullets, antibiotics. It's a play on words. He's sick and tired of the shit. He realizes that Putin doesn't care about Russia. He doesn't care about the military. He doesn't care about Wagner. He doesn't care about anybody but himself. He's calling for a coup. The Russian military has responded in kind with armored personnel vehicles and armored personnel carriers and tanks all around key points of Moscow today. Putin's not in Moscow. Putin's in the Duma. He's hiding in a mountain complex right now. But it's all political theater and posturing. Does Prigozhin stop what he's doing, turn north, and go back into Russia and start attacking? No, I don't think so. Because his group, as of last year, has a sizable force of around 50,000 troops. Only 20,000 of those troops are wholeheartedly behind Prigozhin, which means 40% of his troops. The other 60%? Question mark. Do they believe him? Do they want to follow him? Do they oppose him? We don't know that yet. But we do know 20,000 of his troops are like, we're behind you. Whatever you say, we'll do it. 20,000 troops is a lot of people. So, he's got that. He's starting to earn the attention of Western media because he did this public set of speeches on social media, and we're taking notice. We're like, okay, he's obviously pissed off. Why is the enemy of my enemy my friend all of a sudden?
He's not.
Or is he? That's a question that's being asked right now.
Hmm.
Some chicken shit little bastard named Antony Blinken is sitting in a Chinese hotel right now with his knee pads on going, are we cool with Prigozhin? I don't know. I'm too busy with my knee pads in front of Xi Jinping. But whatever. Regardless. Here's my theory. Prigozhin's not a leader on a political scale. He's a leader on a military scale. He doesn't like what's going on. He wants a change. He doesn't like Putin. He doesn't like the way Putin has been running this operation. He wants it over with because he now realizes he is hemorrhaging assets in the form of manpower and physical equipment that he is losing to a boss that's not paying him anymore. More or less, right? So what does he do? He needs a political ally who will back his play to overthrow the Putin regime. Who does Russia have that Putin hates so much that he has him imprisoned, political prisoner,
You stole my idea.
that he's trying to kill?
You stole my idea.
No, you heard me say this shit all day.
No,
enter-
I didn't, actually.
Alexei Navalny.
Damn it.
Not everyone agrees with this. Mike, you can agree with this. It's fine. It's okay.
I partially agree with it, but I think you're having the wrong horse back to right.
I'm not 100% sure that Prigozhin is trying to bail out Navalny to run the country, so to speak. But I would go as far as to say that he would break out Navalny as a tactical distraction. Because Navalny has a following. And if Navalny has a following of anarchists, right, that go out with tear gas, and Molotovs, and small arms.
According to Putin.
Yes. Don't stall out halfway.
Continue the thought. You were going somewhere. Continue the thought.
Well, you just interrupted my thought.
What? Please continue.
This is what happens to a guy who friendly fires are his allies 3 times last night.
Hey, I apologized every single time. All right, how many more times do I have to apologize?
That's a side story for the rest of you. It's just a joke. Anyway, let's say this is my theory. He causes an uprising to the point where Navalny gets broken out of his political prison. He's not going to ally Navalny. He's just letting him out so his followers can go all anonymous does not forgive on the Russian infrastructure. That means that whoever Navalny puts out there to attack Russian interests is one less person that he's got to lose in military conflict, right? So Wagner stays intact. Navalny's assets are expended. If it succeeds, then he can say, okay, maybe I can follow that guy because he succeeded and I didn't help him. All I did was break him out. Do they agree with each other fundamentally? Not exactly. Do they agree with each other militarily? Absolutely not. But the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and he knows that Navalny is hated by Putin. And what does Prigozhin do? He hates Putin right now. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. He found an ally in an uncommon place. That's my theory. Will it happen? Improbable. Could it happen? Possible. If it does happen, cool. I'm cool with it. Because the more Putin is distracted within his own confines of his own country, the less he can do to screw with Belarus, where he sent nuclear weapons to, the less he can screw with, what's that country just south?
Georgia.
No. Don't mess with us, we're poor. Moldova. He can't mess with Moldova because he's too busy defending his own country, right? He can't mess with Ukraine because Everyone's waiting for bullets, beans, and antibiotics, and he can't do that right now because he's had to stop everything abroad to take care of what's going on at home. Crush the uprising at home to get my fist back in to Ukraine, right?
Nah.
That's my theory. Prigozhin does something to get Navalny's group involved. I'm not saying he's going to back Navalny for leader, but at least he uses him as an asset so he doesn't lose his own men. And if Navalny succeeds, he can say, okay, I can play along with you because at least you had enough initiative and gusto to get this done without my help. So maybe I can work with you. It's a good test. That's my theory. Okay, I'm done. Scott, Mike, Jaime, what are your theories on what's about to happen? I'm not going to judge it. Just let it rip.
I guess I'm going next.
I guess you're going next.
Okay. All right. Here's the situation. Belarus isn't doing anything right now. You notice that? You notice how oddly quiet Belarus has been?
Yes, but I don't know if
And-
you're aware of this. Russia has moved nuclear weapons into Belarus.
Yeah, that's why Belarus is staying quiet. They're staying
Okay.
out of this.
Okay.
And that's my point. Okay. As I mentioned, Russians are getting text messages, text draft messages. There's actually an even bigger growing sentiment of like, we're not going to respond to these, and people are actually starting to protest again. Believe it or not. Apparently, Putin doesn't have a big enough police force to go and, put the boot on everyone because he's sending all those boots to Ukraine.
Yes.
So, I've seen the thing with Kadyrov. Kadyrov and the Chechens, they're almost in the same position as Wagner Group is. They're getting fed up with not getting enough reinforcements from Russia in the Ukraine conflict, and there's been talk of Kadyrov's second in command, another general, who wants to take Chechen out of the whole Russian conflict entirely.
Yes.
So here's the situation. What if Wagner pulls out, the Chechens pull out, and the Chechens start their whole "we want to be independent" thing again? Because I think that's where it's going to go if the Chechens get blamed for anything in this conflict. I see protesters going and protesting, and that might be enough to get Navalny out of prison, and then Navalny can do whatever. But the fact is, I don't see anyone taking Putin out right away. As you said, he's going to stay in the Duma until he thinks it's safe to come out, and he's not going anywhere. Okay, but Wagner's complaining they're not getting funded, they're not getting paid. As you said, no beans, no medicine, no nothing. They're not getting any reinforcement whatsoever from Russia because Russia's got nothing left.
Yes.
So, I think, honestly, the Wagner Group will pull all their forces back, go back to their bases or whatever they've got, and just stew because it's easier and it costs them less money to cut their losses and go back to doing whatever the fuck they were doing in their own bases before the conflict started.
Who?
And the Chechen,
Wagner?
yes,
They were a paramilitary group. They can do whatever they want
Yeah.
when someone hires them to do something.
right, and they'll just go back to just chilling in their base until they get hired to do something else.
But that's the thing. If they're just chilling in their base, they're not making money. If they don't make money, the paramilitary group under his command has no job, which means they have to go find another job.
They'll find other
Wagner is
contracts.
still very active in Syria.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
They'll
point.
they'll find other contracts elsewhere that do pay.
Okay.
They'll go to Africa. There's plenty of money to be made
And as
there.
I said, the
Yes.
Chechens will cut their losses, pull back to Chechnya, and possibly start the whole Chechen independent thing again because
Okay.
they like being independent.
So what happens to Kadyrov?
Kadyrov, he either gets a bullet from his own people or he continues doing what the hell he's doing.
So the country's
Honestly.
still split three ways.
And honestly, I see more people protesting to the point of which the security forces can't bomb them or fight back to the point
Sure.
which they're going to ask where Navalny is, because a bunch of them probably voted for Navalny, regardless of
Okay.
whether and eventually they'll get Navalny out. Will they put him in charge? No. But the point is, Putin has been the only choice for leadership in Russia for the past 30 years.
Yes, because they've been going back and forth between him
And-
and
Him and that other guy,
Medvedev.
Medvedev.
But I think
Yeah.
that guy's just a puppet anyway.
Yeah, that guy's just a puppet. They're not
Okay.
going to want him either.
Sure.
So, and it's probably going to the point where if Putin doesn't stop now, he's probably going to see not only just a civil war in Russia,
Mm-hmm.
parts and regions that were or are part of Russia may want to secede from Russia as well.
You
Because
mean
of
more
this-
satellite states,
More satellite states.
such as?
Because the southern regions and the southeastern regions,
we
not
already have all
Siberia.
the Istans.
Yes, but the other regions near Siberia and also the southern regions near Georgia and
So now you're
whatnot.
talking about Far East.
Yeah. Well, anyways, let me finish. Okay.
Sure. Well, I'm trying to clear this up.
Those regions have been giving a lot of recruits to Russia, because Russia's been saying either give them to us or we're going to come and take those recruits to go and send. to
They've
Ukraine.
been conscripting those guys.
Yeah, they've been conscripting.
That also has
And-
the highest defection rates in all of the Russian military.
Yeah. By the way, you know how many people is projected to have run off to not Siberia but Mongolia?
That's where they've been recruiting them.
They've been running. They've been
They've
running
been
off.
taking on
Mongolia's not-
Mongolians.
Mongolia
is not part of Russia.
I
it's not
know,
part of
but
Russia,
they've been
its own country.
conscripting Mongolians.
Yes, but they've been running to Mongolia to try and get away from the Russians. And it's like
Yes.
I looked at the numbers, and it's like we're talking in the hundreds of thousands.
Okay.
So this whole situation is coming to the point where Putin may be seeing a civil war, the likes of which Russia has never seen before, because it's not going to just be, Putin's side versus, an opposition side. It's going to be several different forces vying not for control, but for their own peace.
It's going to be balkanization.
All right. Scott,
And
your
that's
theory?
what I see.
My theory is, depending on what happens with the Wagner group,
Yes.
I see it ending one of two ways. Either Putin eats a bullet by his own hand, which is knowing his
Adolf
personality.
Hitler in the Fuhrer bunker.
hmm
That only happens if he's completely under the threat of annihilation with the people.
or
at his
if everyone in
doorstep.
the government completely turns on him.
Yes, and that'd be cool. But how much of the government does he still have left?
Internally, Russia has plenty of security forces.
Right, but I mean, okay, so he's got Shoigu, and there was one other guy. The other guy's gone. Like, you don't hear his name anymore. He's been gone so long I forgot his name.
Yeah, because he's probably dead, because Putin probably had him killed.
Maybe. I mean, he had two
The
top
one that had a
generals.
heart attack.
From your mouth to God's ears, I don't remember his name. It's been that long.
Yeah, he had a heart attack, and then he kind of dropped out of the news cycle.
Okay.
Russians are famous for assassinating people using heart attacks.
Putin is famous for that. Let's not kid
No,
ourselves.
Russians in general. That's an old KGB trick. That
Well, yes, and
the
who was the head of the
Soviet
KGB
Union
and the FSB and the East Germans since 1963?
No,
Vladimir
not
Putin.
1963, 1985.
Putin was not head of the
85.
KGB in the 60s.
He was born in 52. He's only 3 years older than my father.
I thought he was in East Germany during the Cold War.
1950.
Yeah, in the 80s.
I'm old enough in 65.
All right, fine.
He was the last head of the Stasi
Ah, got it. Good. Okay, I'm glad you cleared
before
that
the
up.
wall came down.
He's
Okay,
playing
okay.
the 1985 playbook, not the 65.
Fine, but he's
You're-
looking at
you're
the
20 years
map
off.
from 1963. Because that's when East Germany and all that was the big thing with all the Soviet
Because
satellite
that
states.
was when Russia was at the height of their power.
Yes, and he wants it back.
which he's never going to have.
But he keeps
It's a
thinking
fucking
he is.
impossibility.
Correct.
It's an impossibility.
Because if he attacks the Baltic states, they're all NATO now.
Most of them, yes.
So that triggers Article 5. His only
afraid of
play
that, though?
was to get, yeah.
Well,
After
now-
he's seen the effectiveness of NATO's weapon systems in
Yes.
Ukraine,
Yes.
that takes attacking the Baltics off the. His only play was to attack Ukraine.
Broken arrow. Fuck them if they can't take a joke. He's that
Does
kind
he
of
want to
crazy.
have Russia nuked?
Well, yes, but he's that kind of crazy. If he's
Also, the
willing to go that
Belgrade,
far,
just
he
like
doesn't
every
care.
one of their other wonder weapons,
Yes.
probably has one or two fucking, Virginia-class subs trailing it, and it doesn't even fucking know. Because we trailed Russian subs for decades, and they didn't
Maybe.
even have a fucking clue. We knew where
Maybe.
every one of their sub was.
Maybe. I can't deny that. But then,
And the only reason they found out was because a U.S. fucking traitor.
okay, I'm not disagreeing with you, okay? Because history has been a good teacher. But keep in the back of your mind, when it disappeared off the Kola Peninsula or whatever, nobody knew where it went. Now we can
No,
say
nobody's admitting.
nobody's
where they
admitted
knew where
it. I
went.
know you're going to say that, but let's just assume that that's true. Okay? If all of his working weapons are on that thing and we don't know where it is, then the Cold War boogeyman thing that everyone talks about is still valid. Whether or not it's true is yet to be proven, like you said. Like we could have a Flight 4 West Virginia class up its ass and maybe doesn't even know it's there. That's true. Because what did we learn this week? That the U.S. Navy heard that the Titan blew up on Sunday, and yet.
And how long for them to take for it to admit that?
No.
Uh.
They admitted yesterday that they knew they heard a sound on Sunday. They did inform the Coast Guard Sunday. They said, hey, we heard a sound, but we cannot confirm that that's what it is, but we're just letting you know we heard a sound. They did do that, but they can't confirm it. It was up to the private sector to send something down to that site to find out. Even James Cameron admitted he knew Sunday it was over. And it took him that long to get a submersible and a UAV to that site right on top of the last known location. They dropped it straight down and found it instantly. So,
Well,
yeah, we talked about that. We're going to talk about that a little bit too.
Well,
Here's
let's say
the other thing.
The Belgorod isn't a tin can scrunched either.
Correct. And it
nobody's
has
seen it
a
lately.
drone, remotely operated submarine on its belly that can run for 10 years after it's been programmed. That's pretty scary.
Yeah. Oh, but how much do you believe that?
It's a
Let's
pre-programmed nuclear-powered drone.
Of
Well,
Putin's
Let's take a step back.
weapons.
What were the Soviets doing?
Kinzel.
Kinzel works.
Kinzel is
It
a
works.
piece of shit.
It works, though.
The Soviets were good at
Just not as
propaganda.
good
We
as they
did the
said.
Kinzel in the 1950s.
Yes, but they employed it.
We did too.
We don't.
We
use
had
it
a
now.
working Kinzel in the 19 because we got better shit.
That's all they got.
The
I don't
Kinzel's
know.
a piece of shit. The
I-
T-14 Armada, another one of
Big
his
piece of
Wonder
shit.
weapons.
Big piece of shit.
Also,
What's to make you think he's not lying about the fucking
Somebody
So-called
has to.
autonomous submarine of death and doom?
Well, okay, I could sort of address that. We have laid out ordnance all across the ocean floor. We have. We
Yeah.
had placed it there in reserve. We can literally just put it online and put it to work. So if we could do it, we have to assume that they could do it too. Maybe not as effectively or whatever, but somebody always has to say, let's just assume that they did. Because if everyone says no, they can't, and then it happens, then everyone gets caught with their pants down. I'm not saying you're wrong. I agree with you. A lot of their stuff doesn't work, at least as advertised. But if you have a submarine that's tiny, that's attached to the belly of your big submarine, and all you have to do is pre-program what you want it to do, like in XXX with that thing with Silent Night. Remember that? And they had that little tape drive thing that it went into, and it could just do whatever. If they can do that and make it a reality, because that movie was in, what, early 2000s? They've had plenty of time to look at that and go, let's do that. Yes, we'll do that. Da. Right? Just like we used to look at Star Trek and go, tablet PCs, let's do that. Da. Right? We made it reality. Maybe it took them longer to make the XXX submarine thing reality, whatever. Right? But to say, hey, look, we can do that, pre-program it, and make it do the thing, we cannot say, no, you can't do that. Because we can do that. Maybe just they can't do it as effectively. Maybe they only got it right once. But it only takes once. And that's the danger. And that's
I'll give you
what
another
creates the boogeyman.
I'll give you an example of the incompetence of Russian weapons designers.
Go ahead.
So you're familiar with the U.S. Satan missile?
Their Satan missile.
No, our Satan missile.
We didn't call it that, though. They call it the Satan.
No, we called it the Satan missile because it was the ultimate doomsday weapon.
All right.
Nuclear-powered cruise missile that carried submunition nuclear weapons and was a weapon of mass destruction in and of itself.
We didn't call
because
it
it had
Satan,
a little
though.
setting. Okay, call it, what was it?
I don't know the name of it. I know the Russians call it.
I forget
the
offhand. Well, the Russians didn't even know about it.
No, I'm saying we don't call it that. They call it that. Like the technology.
No, the Russians have their own missile that they call the Satan missile. It's completely different bullshit.
There's two of them. Like they have the thing called the Sarmat. That's the Satan 2. Well,
Yes.
we never called it that by name. We have something else for it. But I know what you mean.
Yeah. Well, we were flying that around the Southwest in the 1960s.
Okay.
A nuclear-powered cruise missile with nuclear submunitions. The Russians have been trying to develop that currently for about 10 years.
We had a
The last time
nuclear-powered
they
B-36.
tried- Yes.
Okay.
The last time they tried testing this engine,
Yes.
they irradiated everybody else on the fucking boat trying to do it out in the Baltic Sea.
And we won't
Okay.
even talk about
Okay.
the high
It
planes.
killed a bunch of the goddamn scientists designing it.
Yes. Okay, so let me bring it back around because I have a theory. Mike had a theory. What do you think is going to happen with Prigozhin in regards to this uprising that he's calling for in Russia? Like, what do you think is going to happen? Let me pose this to you. What do you think is going to happen in the next 30 days?
Honestly,
I
I think he's calling for the civilians to rise up, or for those that are still in the military that are protecting or around Putin to actually grow a fucking spine. That's what he's calling for right now. Okay,
Do you
is he
think
going to do
finds
anything?
allies within his enemies?
Yeah. Is he going to do anything himself other than just stand there and look pretty in front of the camera? Probably not, because he doesn't want to get shot.
Okay.
So
Well-
my theory here is that the Wagner group is going to split. Wagner's going to use this as a red herring,
Yes.
or he's going to let his troops split and saying, well, I'm Wagner, I'm the leader, I'm splitting out. But he's going to leave a contingency group, his majority, to bat an ear or an eye at Putin and pretty much, in other words, side with Ukraine. And this is very spectacle. I'm going out of the ozone of my wheelhouse. But I feel like there are some troops on his side for Ukraine that are Wagner group.
20,000.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, and that are going to support Ukraine and pretty much be like, okay, we're your backup now, boo. I just want to make sure he doesn't get close to you guys anymore, because if I can't have it, he can't have it. Who gives a fuck? I want to help you push in and take Bakhmut.
I
and,
influenced this, didn't I?
No, not really. I
Our
had an
little
idea.
button heads earlier.
No, not really. I just thought of it right now.
Yeah.
No, because I literally wrote something. You want to read it?
No,
I literally
I find this fascinating. You
so
basically Chechnyied Wagner Group. You said they're going to bifurcate and choose sides, and no, I like this. Go ahead, continue.
and that a certain person within the Wagner group, they're gonna say, "Oh, well, I'm the leader of this new faction,"
Yes,
and they're gonna get support by our not our troops, but our equipment with Ukrainian backed stuff, and pretty much punch back you in
So you're saying
take
he's
back.
gonna switch sides?
Yes, exactly,
the
and
enemy of
that
my
he
enemy
could.
is my friend. Yes.
Well, I'm not even really using that. I think he just doesn't want to. I don't think he's using. He's not that type of guy. Psychologically, the perspective, he's not that guy.
Bogosian.
Yes, Bergor's not that guy.
I think he just takes the highest bidder at this point.
No, no, no. I think what he wants to do now, because he takes betrayal to the nth degree.
Yes. Yes.
Articles that
Fair
there's
point.
articles that he has had people betray him, and they go missing like what Putin does.
Yes.
So he takes psychologically wise, he takes betrayal very
He took
seriously.
offense to this.
So no, well, he took more than offense. So he's like, okay, fine, Putin, you want to kill me, who actually is doing you a favor. Got it. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna publicize saying Wagner Group left, and I'm not the leader no more on paper, but
Right.
on the field,
He leads the resistance that
I'm
supports
going.
the
I'm
Ukrainians to
going
keep Russia
to.
out of it.
Well, he's not gonna go into Russia. He's gonna push everything back to before like
Right. I'm saying
2014.
he will
Yeah.
support the group that supports the Ukrainians to keep the Russians out
Yeah,
of.
just
Got it.
because he doesn't want to give up all this territory that he'll leave and let it go in the hands of the Russians. So he's like, okay, fine, I can't kill you, got that, but you know what? Because if I do, then they're gonna be hunting me, and I'm just gonna punch you all the way back. So all the efforts that you had up to this point by me are no longer nth degree. By the way, here, Zelensky, I got a whole bunch of dossiers for your ass.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then that's like that once that sparks within NATO and all the geopolitics of like, you know what I mean, denazifying fucking the Wagner group in a different light, not the same Wagner group, a different group, a splinter group, and saying it's not the Wagner group, it's a different group, it's the Ekis group. And then Putin doesn't have nothing.
Well, here's the other thing to consider.
That's
After making that announcement, what are the rank and file Russian military troops going to do?
at this
Who are they going
point,
to side with?
at this point,
Who
they're
are they
going
going
to
to side with?
The
The
troops.
guy who actually drafted them into fight a war they didn't want,
or a guy
or
that
the
they
guy
down the field.
that's turned against him.
Well,
Probably the guy that turns against them.
These
yeah,
are the questions that we're trying to answer.
but I will have a rebuttal for this. Only
ahead.
just a rebuttal that their troops are already weak. Morale is the nth degree. At this point, they're going to make a
Yes.
decision. Do we either fight for the territory that these guys, we saw how bloodthirsty these guys are in the field,
Or do we
compared
give up
to
and
us?
go home?
or we give up and go home, and I can fuck what's it called, Bertha in the left
They
horn.
can't go home. That's
Well,
the thing. If they
but
defect,
you know my
they're
point.
executed.
Well, no, I'm
But
not
they
saying
can
defect.
join the Wagner group.
They can
Yeah.
join the Ukrainians like that one guy that surrendered to a drone.
Exactly. So it comes down to, I think this is more. I don't think this is plausible, but I wouldn't doubt, because this has happened in history.
Yes.
I'm picking a certain historical moments where a couple Nazi groups that were part of the SS decide to switch sides to the United States.
You're talking about when they fought on
Mhm.
was it Italy?
Castle Itter.
Yes,
It's
sir.
it's a castle thing, yeah. I
Yes.
remember that. Yeah.
So I'm
The
glad you
Wehrmacht.
catch that.
What was it? The
You can-
SS
Took
fought the
on
Wehrmacht
the
or something like
SS.
that?
Yes.
The regular Wehrmacht in
Took
the
on the
U.S. joined
SS.
forces and took on
Yes.
the SS.
Yes.
So
Okay.
I took that inspiration, not from our conversation, but I was Googling, not Googling, but I was like, you know what? Okay, what groups defected blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
Sure.
I found this group, and I'm like, okay, I
The
can bite
Italians
my teeth in
defected.
this. Well, I know, but you get my point, though.
Yeah.
All
Like,
right. All
but
right. All right. Go
I-
ahead.
so that-
Finish.
I'm just saying this is my point. Is outlandish. I don't believe in it, but there's possibility that a Wagner group can split and
Sure.
not be Wagner and still Wagner. Just saying, it's not like we've done it before. Air America.
I have to mention something on the Baltic, okay? Just real quick. Remember what has happened in the past couple months since this whole Ukraine situation has happened.
Uh-huh.
Sweden and Finland both applied to join NATO.
Only one
Sweden
got
is-
in.
Only one got in. Sweden's still trying. Don't count them out just
Yes,
yet.
but because Finland butts right up against Russia, NATO rushed their entry
Yes,
because they gained 790 miles of border.
exactly. That border changed from being neutral to being NATO overnight.
Yes.
And remember, it doesn't matter if he's in the Duma or not. That still makes him very scared because now Russia only has 2 entry points in a NATO-controlled Baltic Sea. You know what
Go
those 2
on.
entry points are? 2 entry points are the piece of land where St. Petersburg is and Kaliningrad. Those are the only 2 entry points Russia
Kaliningrad is
technically has.
completely isolated right now.
Exactly. That's right. But they share. But that's another point. If Russia is too busy doing this, what's to stop some enterprising NATO nation from just waltzing right into Kaliningrad? Russia can't fight them.
Okay, so fair point. I think Kaliningrad is simply a prize at this point.
Yeah.
If the West wins, if Ukraine wins, if Putin is defeated and has his tail tucked between his legs, I think NATO, because they've already sanctioned Russia to death, I think the only thing they can do to punish Russia is force Kaliningrad to be returned to Poland.
Or
As
split
punishment.
between Lithuania and Poland.
If they share a border, yes.
They
But I think all sides would agree. Hey, it's right there up
This
against Poland.
this
Take it
will
back.
cause another Versailles Treaty, in my opinion.
It would, yes.
Yes. But
Yes, it will.
that is based on the premise of unconditional surrender through total war.
I completely understand that. I'm adding to your guys' thoughts.
Yeah,
I'm
I get it. All I'm saying is the Versailles Treaty was drafted after unconditional warfare and total defeat of Germany.
We all understand that. I'm just saying I'm adding to that.
Which means the Duma has to burn.
Okay?
Putin has to either die or Moscow has to burn.
Captured.
There,
You can do that.
Burn.
there's a
Death.
situation happening in Russia right now that people aren't realizing. Russia's like their navy is technically number 5 in the world right now.
Russia's?
Okay?
Are you sure?
Yes. I think it's right, number 5, or it might be a little higher. Okay.
Oh,
But-
okay, I thought it was like number 7. But all right.
I'm not sure. It's in the top 10. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. But the situation is
Russia's
you-
navy is currently ranked number 2.
What?
2.
Wait. So it's better.
Here's
So
the
what's
situation.
rank?
As of
what's happening.
2023, the
Uh-huh.
largest navy in the world belongs to the People's Republic of China. Number 2 belongs to Russia. Number 3 belongs to North Korea.
Let me finish the thought. Okay. I'm almost
You
done.
got to get this right, Mike. Because at
Hey.
the end of the day, the United States Navy had finally committed to a 500-ship Navy only this year. They have to build it. However, China has 730.
Yes.
Russia has 598. And North Korea, 519.
But the
We are
projections
behind.
coming out of Russia from sources are saying that since they are putting all their freaking resources into trying to attack Ukraine, they are canceling and pushing all their naval projects and ships
Yes.
to the back burner.
Yes.
Ergo, their navy right now may be number 2 in numbers, but as far as quality or on par with everybody else in the world,
We're not
If
that far
they don't-
behind.
if they don't fix things soon, in another, if
We're
they
number
don't
4.
if they don't redivert those resources back to their navy, they're knowing in the next 10 years they may not have a navy to run.
You see, I was almost with you there. Having a navy doesn't mean as much as it used to, thanks to intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Which no one wants to use because
But
once you pull the genie out of the bottle, guess what? Everybody
I didn't say you had to
loses.
launch them. I'm just saying
Guess
the fact
what?
that you have
The
them
United
make good
States
deterrents.
Navy already has a counter to the DF-21s.
Yes.
Fucking, I know. Guess what it's called? A laser.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm not even fucking kidding. The
We ran
U.S. has
Jaime
been
off.
equipping. The U.S. has literally been equipping ships with anti-ballistic missile lasers for going on about a decade now.
Freaking
Yeah.
sharks with freaking laser beams on their freaking heads. Or
No,
seriously
mildly ill-tempered
agitated
sea
sea bass.
It's mildly ill-tempered.
Also,
Mildly ill-tempered
US
sea bass.
The U.S. Navy does not slap a naval designation on any ship that has a fucking engine like the Chinese do. Because if you look at the
Yeah.
tonnage,
It doesn't matter.
the U.S. Navy still has 3 times as much tonnage as
It
the
just
Chinese.
means it's a bigger boat to sink.
No, it means everything the
730
Chinese
named
copy
ships.
is inferior.
730 named ships. China.
Named
598 ships.
They name
Russia.
a fucking tug a naval ship.
519 ships. North Korea. United States comes in
If you look
number 4.
If
484. We're only 16
if you look
behind.
at the makeup of the fucking North Korean Navy, most of those are like patrol
It doesn't
size
matter. It's the
fucking
numbers.
craft
The point
that
is
a
the point
fucking
is the
frigate can
numbers.
blow out of the water.
The point is the numbers. We're 16 ships behind the quote 500 ship Navy. Now,
Oh, yeah.
yes, our 500 ships in the Navy would be devastatingly strong. Not denying
Sure.
that whatsoever.
The Navy, even during the Cold War, did not have 500 ships.
But they don't matter as much as they used
And-
to. No, the
and
last
the
time we had
prob- the
500 ships, I
problem
think
is-
was
They're
World
more
War II.
important than they used to be.
I gotta drag
Because
Jaime.
guess what?
I can do it.
Oh, he can do it.
90% of the world's trade goes where?
And you also have to realize this.
Wait a minute.
First-
I know the answer to this question. 90% of the world's trade goes through all the countries that are currently in BRICS. And guess who's not in that? Us.
No.
Yes.
90% of the world's trade goes on the ocean.
Yes. And guess who controls most of the ports in the ocean now? The nations that are involved in BRICS. Guess who's not involved in BRICS? The United States.
Apparently, you didn't see the article that I posted yesterday or the day before.
About?
Oh, just a little phone manufacturing company is pulling out of China.
Yes. That's actually quite good news.
Yes.
But at the end of the day,
And if you look at it,
there was a
India.
thing known as the
Massive
petrodollar.
amounts of businesses are pulling out of China. Their
Once upon
economy
a
is about
time,
to
there was a
fucking
thing
crash.
called the petrodollar, and that's what all oil transactions were made through. Now, there is a thing called the petro yuan. That is Chinese main currency. They have ingratiated themselves with the world enough to get OPEC to agree to a second transactional currency, which means they are trying to pull away from the US
Not
dollar.
for long.
No,
Not
they're
gonna
trying
happen.
to pull away from the US dollar. The world has been deliberately trying to pull away from the US dollar for decades. This is their ingress to do so. Whether or not it succeeds doesn't matter because they pulled it off. If it doesn't succeed,
They only
they'll go
pulled
grab
it
something
off
else.
if they succeed, which
Well,
it's not going to.
If you get the world's biggest oil cartel to agree to it, you have succeeded.
I also want to ask you this one question, Sean.
Yes.
Okay, of the vast ships the Russian military has, their navy has,
Yes.
how many of them are post Cold War?
That's a fair
Not
question.
many.
That is a fair question, but I don't have the answer to that.
And not many. And if they don't have the resources to build new ships,
I'll give you a prime example of the Russian Navy.
how do you think they'll have the resources? to
That's why I was
maintain
saying
current
having
ships?
a navy doesn't mean as much as it used to in the era of ICBMs
It does when
and
you want to
drones
project
and
power.
It does when you want to project power.
No, that's
Because-
a dick
Not
measuring
true.
contest.
Whatever gets haters or a country's attention is when a U.S. Navy supercarrier shows up off
A
their
nuclear
coast.
missile negates a dick measuring contest. Do we all agree?
You are aware nuclear carriers carry nuclear weapons?
Right, but my
Mhm.
point is it doesn't mean as much as it used to, because you can send out the Great White Fleet, but what good is the Great White Fleet if one Russian boomer can knock out the whole thing? Or
Because they can't.
or the inverse to that is, what if the Russians send out their Great Red Fleet and one Seawolf knocks out the entire thing in the dark? Like none of it matters anymore.
Is that before or after they discover when they turn the engines on and try to go forward that the propellers are missing off their boat?
I know that story, and I find that fucking hilarious. That was a decommissioned ship, though, I have to admit.
I will give you a better example, okay? The flagship of the Black Sea Fleet, the Moskva.
It got sunk by
You
Neptune
know why
missiles.
it got sunk?
It got hit by Neptune missiles.
Because they had cannibalized so much of their anti-aircraft
Yes,
weaponry.
and half of it didn't work either. That is fair
Yes,
to say. But that
that
wasn't
is a
even a modern ship.
prime
That was an old
example.
ship.
Who's to say
It
they're not
was
doing it
the
all over their
flagship,
Navy because of the
though.
conflict?
Yeah, but that's like saying the HMS Hood was the flagship of the British Navy and the Bismarck turned it into a joke in one salvo. You see, that's the thing.
Because it was
Humble
a battle
pie
cruiser
tastes
taking
like
on a
shit
battle.
when you have to
Yeah.
eat it.
Well, you have to stop thinking World War II. This is the modern era.
Right. We have
Modern
the
ships.
Belgorod that's got its nuclear drone
is
submarine.
At this
Which-
point, over 25 years old.
No,
Yeah.
the
You
new
don't
one, the
think-
Belgorod, the thing that they just
Yes.
put out to sea.
Yes. You know what the Belgorod is?
Yeah, it's a
It's
stretched
a
out Oscar
Russian.
II.
Yes.
It's
What
a
was
monster.
the original? The Oscar II, how old is it?
Yes, but
When
this
was the
one
last
is-
one built? In the 90s.
Well, the Belgorod's the last one built, isn't it?
The Belgorod
Yeah, and that was
laid
built
down
in the late
92.
90s.
Fine.
The U.S. Navy knows
How long has
the
the West Virginia
exact
been out?
sound signature
How long has the West Virginia been
of
out?
that ship. Oh shit, they've been out forever. But you know what? Our submarines
what we're
always
still
have
building.
outclassed. No, the Virginias.
Oh my God! You're turning into Patrick. Your patriotism is blinding you.
No,
They
I'm
haven't
looking at it from a
found
technological
the
standpoint.
Belgorod. It's out there, and nobody knows where it is. On
Nobody
record.
will fucking
On
admit
record.
they
On
know where
record.
it is.
On record. However, that has, for the rest of us, we have to accept that we don't know where it is.
It's a highly improbable probability.
When
that the
John
US Navy
Kirby,
does not
former
have
Navy
a-
admiral, says that he doesn't know where it is, you have
Because
to take
he's
him
a
for his word.
former admiral. He doesn't
He is
have access
also the
to current
Pentagon
intelligence.
spokesman.
Yeah.
Active.
So what?
He is the
That
voice
still
of the
doesn't mean
Pentagon.
he has the latest
Today.
intel that the U.S. Navy
No,
has.
he is the voice of the Pentagon today.
Yeah.
And he says,
So?
we don't know where it is. Now, that tells me two things. One, either he's a really bad liar, or two,
Which he is.
he just tipped his hand and said, we don't know where it is.
The U.S. Navy has a policy of neither confirming nor denying bullshit. It's been
This
very
is
long
pretty
standing.
True, yes.
There's no way they would confirm, oh, we know right where it is, because then that gives away our capabilities.
We never say how fast something goes. I will admit that.
It's not even that. The U.S. never confirmed during the Cold War that we had SOSUS.
That's true.
But we had
That's
it.
Very true. Very true.
And now they've turned SOSUS over to private researchers.
Do you know what we got to do?
What does that tell you?
That tells me we need to have Aaron Amick here as part of the panel.
That tells me that we have something that is far more fucking powerful.
I think we're still using it.
No, they turned it over to private researchers.
Yes, and that's what found the noise that found the Titan, which is a crushed beer can next to the Titanic.
Well, SOSUS is only on the West Coast. The Titanic is on the East Coast. Oh,
so
off the East Coast.
what did we use to hear it?
That's a very good question now, isn't it?
'Cause
Now
when
you're
the-
asking the right question.
When the
Now
San
you're
Juan
asking what?
went down in Argentina, okay, They triangulated the sounds that they recorded off the coast of Tierra del Fuego, South America,
Mhm.
the western coast of West Africa, or South Africa, and a point south of Cuba. A listening post.
I believe it's called Cuba.
Cuba, whatever. Anyway, point is, they took 3 recordings from 3 different corners of the world, triangulated the sound that they all heard, and found the San Juan 1 year after it went down. I thought that was SOSIS that was involved
No.
with that.
No.
Because the stories mentioned it. But it was from 3 different points. They drew lines together, and that's what it came up with. Eventually, we're going to get a recording that the U.S. Navy heard last Sunday of a little tiny carbon fiber beer can going.
Yep.
Where 5
There is-
billionaires died.
The Chinese Navy is not a threat because, let's face it, we could sink them in probably a week.
They do have the loudest boats in the ocean. That cannot be denied.
Yes. And we have the quietest as far as nuclear boats.
Do we?
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware, the quietest boat in the ocean is owned currently by Sweden. But it's a diesel.
But that's a diesel electric, and
Yes. But
it's
it can
also
be transcontinental.
a coastal submarine.
Yes, but it can travel It can do.
It's got the
transcontinental
range,
travel.
yes. But that's not its strength. It likes to sit in the
Yes, littoral.
shallows
I know what you mean. Because we brought it
and
over
hide
here on
in
a
the
barge.
backscatter.
We war gamed with it off the coast of Pearl, and it completely embarrassed all of us. I forgot the name of the boat.
But in
yeah.
a nuke boat sub conflict, we have a massive edge in technology on everyone.
Your patriotism is frightening.
No. Do you know why?
Go ahead.
USS Seawolf.
Yeah, I know. I love that thing.
Still quieter than the Virginia class.
Yeah, it's so quiet
The
that it
Vir-
snuck
the
up on a
Virginia class-
mountain in China and wrecked its nose. Need I
Yeah,
remind
The thing
you?
is, with
They
that
replaced-
area is filled with underground volcanoes.
Yeah, seamounts. It
That
crashed
seamount
right into one.
That seamount might not have existed
It was
a year
on
ago.
the map.
Maybe it
this
was.
This was pilot error. this
Oh,
was total pilot
That's why the
error.
commander was relieved.
Yes. Very quietly executed.
But we still have 2 more of those boats out there.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And unfortunately,
And
we
you
don't have
never
more of
hear
them.
shit about them.
No, because
If you
one's
look at the
hanging off of
Virginia
Black
class,
Sea.
a lot of them are based upon the same technology
I think
as
one
the
of them's
Seawolf
sitting in
class.
the Black Sea.
They're the budget version of
The
the Seawolf.
Flight 4 is very close. The Flight 5 is very close, yes. Which is the ones we're currently building until the end of the contract, yes.
Which are also going to be getting sold. I don't know if the Flight 5 will.
We
But
don't sell those.
you
Those
are-
aren't export. We're making Flight 4s for Australia, though.
I was about to point that out.
Because we got that place on the northern coast that the Chinese are about to attack.
The Chinese are literally encircled.
They're going to
You've got
attack it.
Australia,
They're going to
you've
attack
got-
it.
Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean.
Yeah.
You got Guam, and you got
mm,
Japan.
Okay.
They are
okay.
checkmated.
Okay. Where do the Chinese have naval bases right now abroad? On the eastern coast of Russia, the
Mhm.
eastern coast of Africa, South Africa, the western coast of Southeast Asia. They have already enveloped the Indian Ocean. And the way they did that was, hey, bro, we're going to help rebuild your infrastructure. We're going to build you roads and fix all your countries and bring you into the first world. And all you got to do is let us build this little military installation where we can bring in our boats to bring in all these supplies. And guess who fell for it? Ethiopia, South Africa, and Myanmar, which means they have 3 points that face the Indian Ocean. They do not have Diego Garcia under control. Or Diego Garcia does not have China under control because they're surrounded.
Guam
Guess
is
where
one
else the Chinese have a military base? Off the coast of Chile.
Yeah. And can they supply them? Because can they get past if we chose not to allow them?
If you go down the southern oceans far enough, yes. Because we don't really patrol the southern oceans because there's almost no land in the southern oceans, which is why the currents are so bad in the southern oceans. The only land that stops the southern oceans is the bottom of Africa and the bottom of South America. And the vastness in between is why most, what's the word, circumnavigators of the world are terrified of the southern oceans. That, what's her name? Ellen something or rather from England. She did it on a catamaran. Dude, her description of the southern oceans is terrifying. She was like, yeah, 1 minute you're 150 feet above sea level on a wave, and the next minute you're 200 feet below sea level because your catamaran flipped over on its side in a gale in the dark and all the lights went out. And then your boat hopefully rights itself because of the systems on board. Like, that sounds horrible.
That can happen
we're not
anywhere on
patrolling
the
that.
ocean.
Well, yes, but the southern oceans are the worst because there's less land down there, so the currents and the waves are huge. They're frighteningly large. I've seen them off the coast of Alaska in the middle of the night. Those are only 80-foot waves, and they scared the shit out of me. Could you imagine a 350-foot drop? Not me. No, thank you. There is no submarine that's going to sit there and bob around with 350-foot swells up and down. Fuck that.
Because
No
submarines
way.
don't do that.
Well, yes, but the ocean is very, very volatile down there. Very volatile.
The surface of the ocean is absolutely.
Yes, but the surface
Because
goes up 150 and down
The
250.
passage around the Horn of Africa is, even to this day, the most dangerous waterway area in the world.
Sharks.
No.
Sharks.
Weather.
Weather, sharks, flying great whites, Cape seals, all that good stuff. Anyway, we have fucking tangented off like
Sharknadoes.
we have tangented to death. I didn't want a 2-hour show. We have an hour and 32 minutes. Anyway, all right. Concluding thoughts.
Don't we always run over?
Yes,
Yes.
and I don't want to do that tonight. Concluding thoughts. Is Prigozhin going to successfully overthrow Putin? Quickly,
No.
yes or no?
No.
No. He'll force his hand.
Okay, my answer, no.
Negative.
Everyone's answer is no. Next question. Will he have stirred up enough shit to get Putin out of office because of other motivated, I don't know, agitators?
Possible.
My answer to that
Negative.
is
Negative.
yes.
Nope.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go with possibly.
Now,
I'm gonna go with
I
a
think
solid no.
I think because there was Shoigu and one other guy. The other guy's not dead. I think somebody of that
we know of.
level of leadership could very well be the next person to overthrow. Because, let's be honest, Prigozhin's not a general, right?
No.
He's a contractor. But Shoigu is a general, and the guy that was with him was also a general. And there's many generals who have come and gone, like the Butcher of Bucha, for instance, right? Who have been brought in and then relieved and whatever, and they've got a chip on their shoulder because they didn't get to prove their worth to the dick that gave them the power in the first place. I would say that maybe he is the first piece, Prigozhin, is the first piece of dissentment that could, I'm not going to say unify all the dissenters, but at least motivate them, maybe? Like, this isn't going to be one-on-one front, clearly, obviously. But you get 5 or 6 Prigozhin's types together, attacking from 5 different angles. Putin's going to have to stretch his resources pretty far, because he already has nothing left to work with. I think we've all agreed. Tanks, very few. Aircraft, I mean, he's using Su-31s, right? Something like that?
Yeah.
Sukhoi 31s?
Yeah.
I think so.
Cold
Yeah.
War era ones.
He doesn't have 57 felons like we thought.
Because they're
And-
the same as the T-14 Armada. They got about a dozen of them, and none of them are fully
Yes.
functional.
Yes. And he's got old MiGs. Because at first he thought, well, I only need to use old MiGs because they've only got old MiGs, right? But the problem is he ran out of those too, didn't he?
Well, now the U.S. has approved the sale of F-16s to Ukraine.
Yes. Was it the F-16 or F-15EX? Or is it both?
The F-16s.
Okay.
So
okay.
I propose another question to this.
Go ahead.
Okay. Will the overthrow of Putin in this case be
Uh-huh.
before or after the next election?
Ooh, that's a
That's
good
the
one.
question. That's the question you guys should be asking because we're answering questions within the time scale of now.
Okay,
What happens if
I
it
believe
doesn't?
after.
lead?
I believe
I think you're
after.
right.
If he's killed, before.
No. I'm just using the kill overthrow. I use the word
No,
overthrow.
I agree with you. If he's killed, I would say before. If he's
Mm.
ousted, I would say after.
I would argue he's too busy now to interfere with
The only
elections.
reason I propose this, the only reason why I propose this question is because right now we, in some shape or form, are offloading our old existing equipment, and that we are somehow, in some way, either I don't know where, I can't pinpoint nowhere. I feel like we're benefiting some way
We are.
to buckle down on Russia for it to be not that strong. So a prolonged existence of this is beneficial for us in some shape or form.
100% agree. We are
Oh, their
doing that,
economy is
though.
in shambles.
I've been saying
Well,
this for the whole year. This is a global beta test of military hardware.
No, I agree. I'm just proposing this question about.
But here's the thing. We don't have something newer than an M1 Abrams tank. That's what we use. Now we're using slightly older versions of
Actually, we
those.
do. We
No,
do.
Bullshit.
Yeah,
They do have a new version.
We
do have a
are
new
not
version.
employing them in the numbers we have Abrams in. But that's our mainstay. But, to be fair, we're sending them the older ones. Agreed. I think we're also sending them M60 A1s, which we used all the way up into the Gulf War. Let's not kid ourselves. They're still
Well, the
capable.
Marines did.
Yeah,
Because
but they're very capable.
hand-me-downs from the Army.
They're still very capable. The Israelis have promised Merkava 4s in exchange for the capture of a T-14, let's be honest. But they're still sending Magaks and other things, right?
Well, I
So-
believe they sent one of their their version of our javelins.
They've sent the Iron Dome.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Oh,
too.
it gets so much better. The Germans have agreed to send the Leopard 2A6. Their latest main battle tank is the 2A7. The Swedish, on the other hand, sent the Leopard Next Gen or whatever they call it. It's actually better than the 2A7 because what they did is what the Israelis did. We gave them something and they made it better. They took a 2A6 and they added the launchers from a Leclerc tank on top of it and then improved the armor and the targeting system on their version, and they were like, no, Ukraine, take this. It's the best one we've got. So
See, what you're unaware of is there is a new Abrams version.
the Abrams
Yes.
X.
That they are, yes.
Yes.
Yes, but we're not employing that yet. It's under testing and whatever. It's not our mainstay battle tank. Our mainstay is the Abrams M1A2 or some shit, which has been in service since the 80s.
I think we're up
No,
to the A3
no,
or
they-
A4 by now.
Yeah.
A4?
You're behind. Yeah.
All right, fine.
We'd have to ask one specific British gentleman about that.
I could just
But they
ask.
have updated the Abrams all along.
David Fletcher is retired, but I can ask.
I
Nicholas
was not
Moran.
referring to that one.
I can
I
ask.
was
Nicholas Moran.
referring to him.
Well, he's American.
No,
He's of Irish
listen to
descent.
his accent.
He's of Irish descent, but he's American. He was a U.S. Army artillery or cavalry or whatever.
You
Army
don't-
cavalry.
You don't get that accent unless you've spent time in Ireland.
That's where he's from, but he's an American.
He's an Americanized Irishman.
Yes, but he served for us, not them.
Yeah.
Anyway,
We take anybody
I
as long as they're a
drank with
citizen.
him. I have pictures of me drinking with him. Anyway, yes,
One
he's a good
time.
person to ask. He is a good person to ask. Okay, so uprising underway. Updates forthcoming because this all started happening yesterday and today, which is why we did this episode. Which I had no plans to do this, but I found it fascinating because it still went fucking 2 hours. God damn it.
And
Almost
everybody
2
showed
hours.
up.
And also,
mostly
the
everyone showed
Ukrainians
up.
are going to target the fuck out of that bridge in Crimea.
Agreed.
Oh,
100% agreed.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, buddy.
100% agreed. You get rid of that
Imagine,
bridge.
I'm
imagine a
surprised they didn't
flyover with
try taking
drone.
that fucker out right at the beginning.
Well, they did. They hit it with a missile or a boat with weapons on
Barge.
it, or
But that's like a half-ass attempt. I'm talking about like all-out assault on it.
what was the name of that thing?
Like a good dozen or more missiles targeting it at once.
What was the name of it?
Harpoon?
The bridge. Damn it.
Oh, I don't know the fucking name of it.
I know, like, the freaking Grim Reapers guys talk about it all the time. Kirch Bridge. The Kirch Bridge. Yeah. Yeah. That's going to become a thing again and again and again. Because it's like...
And if they get F-16s, they will come in screaming fucking low on the ocean, and they will nail that
like,
fucker.
if the Russians start bitching about, why do you keep attacking Kirch Bridge? Be like, because
And if you think about it,
attacking Zaporizhia's nuclear power plant. Fuck off.
The F-16 came online in the 70s.
Yeah.
Over 40-year-old aircraft.
Yeah.
And it's still one of the most potent multi-role
We're still using
platforms out there.
B-52s.
By
Yes,
the
but
way,
they
I
plan on
saw
keeping
something.
those in the air for 100 years.
Yesterday about the B-52.
Hold
Did
that
you hear?
thought.
No,
Hold
no,
that.
no.
Wait. Time out. Hold that
Please,
thought.
please.
I need to
Just
play
one more.
this because we're done. We're done. We're tangenting off. This is something we could talk about off camera.
Oh, come on.
No. This was the War Room, day 485. This was a What If special edition.
And we missed a couple of days.
We have missed 70 days since the last time I did this. Anyway, if you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're a regular here, welcome back. If you have been paying attention, I did do a Tinkers episode, so I am going back to old content. I'm not going to talk about what happened since April with the rest of you people. But if you're my friends and you've been on my server, you know exactly what the hell's going on with me. Mental health is a big deal. Suicide is a very serious thing. Anyway, thank you all for watching. No, I don't have cancer, as far as I know. Good night, and we will see you all later.
Whoa. You
What
forgot.
now?
You forgot the Slava Ukraini.
Slava Ukraini.
Heroyam Slava. Shall
And
not
good
be
night.
infringed.